Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. We have a room full of exalted Vaishnavas here and new guests and persons that I haven't seen before in this room. So I'm just blissed out. But, you know, my computer for some reason or other the cursor got stuck. Oh, wait, it's happening. So the reason we're doing this, I was just about to explain to Jason, a new person who's never been in this room before, who just got books and is inquisitive, which is the first step to making tangible spiritual advancement, by the way. Our founder, Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, worked very hard. Look, it's coming back to life. Krishna is very kind. What can I say? He used to say that books are the basis of our movement. And the reason is because human society, over time, has become forgetful of spiritual education. Of course, we always get born into some religion, and we go to Sunday school, and we learn something. But we're deep, comprehensive, complete spiritual education that teaches us who we are, what the world is, who God is, what the spiritual world is, how the universe was created, why we're here, what the goal is, and what is time, what is the material energy, and how it all fits together. That's spiritual education. And it gives us the knowledge to know what to do and what not to do in order to go forward spiritually to the goal of life, which is to awaken our love for God. Every living being has love for God in the heart, but it's dormant when we come into the material world, covered by the material nature and the reactions to our activities in this material world, birth after birth. So all of this is embodied in the book that you got, one of the books you got, Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, that one. That's the essence of it. Compressed into a very, very short summary, like a sutra. Sutra means compressed. A lot of knowledge in a small size. Like we just uncompressed a lot of information here on this computer and just, like that. So we're here because Srila Prabhupada was very attached to us reading his books. It gives us the basis for, like I said, for what we're doing. And he came in 1965, and he brought the first 3 volumes of this book that we're reading now, which is now 18 volumes long, and is the summum bonum, the complete absolute description of the absolute truth, as much as we are capable as human beings in this age to assimilate. And then he started to translate more books and get them published with the help of his Western disciples. And by the time he left, there were approximately 80 books in print. Yeah. And he started that when he was in his 60s, and most of them after he was in his 70s. Went around the world 14 times after he was 70. Opened up 108 exactly centers, which is an auspicious number, and initiated about 5,000 disciples like me, and set up the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and spread it around the world to the point where it would continue to go after he left. He did that all in 12 years, after he was 70 years old. This is not human. Human beings can't do that, actually. And why that is described in these books. So in 1976, he came to San Francisco for Rath Yatra. And he had a darshan with all of us book distributors. And at the time, we were like vying with Los Angeles for being #1 in the world in distribution of his books. So we were all there, and Prabhupada came in, and we were all anticipating that he was going to give us the supreme pep talk direct from his mouth to distribute his books. As we sat down and he looked at us and he said, "So, are you reading my books?" We all looked at each other, and I was sitting next to Vaisheshika Prabhu, my best friend, and we looked at each other and smiled because we were. And we knew that most of the devotees weren't, because everybody was so busy. I told one of the distributors the other day, if you feel like you're not reading enough and you're out there distributing books and you come to a slow time, because it always is like that. Shoppers come, shoppers go, and slow time. Airports, there's slow periods. Sit down and read the books. Anyway, he then explained to us how he was writing these books not just to distribute, but for us, his students, his disciples, to read. And he wants us to read the books cover to cover, because the books are organized in such a way as his thoughts carry a momentum, a spiritual momentum that educates us, and gives us understanding and practical realization by not just by the words, by the information content, but by his consciousness. He was very, very deep and very powerful spiritual personality. Came from the spiritual world just to help us to come back to the spiritual world. So, therefore, in 2017, there was a meeting held in Mayapur. It's called the ILS, ISKCON Leadership Sangha. It wasn't the first one, but it was one of the first sanghas, and there were like 1,500 leaders from our movement all over the world. And at the end of it, they did a survey to find out how much the leaders were reading Prabhupada's books. And they found out not very much. And that started a kind of impetus for the top leaders, our governing body, to start to think about it more deeply. And the next year we had another meeting called the SGGS, the Sangha of the Gurus and GBCs and Sannyasis, and senior leaders of our movement. And we had this discussion, and the facilitators of the meeting tried to collate all the thoughts. There were about 88 of us in the room. Tried to collate, capture all of our thoughts, and then organize it into what was the 3 most important points that needed to be learned and implemented into our movement so that we can pass the movement on to the next generation intact and according to what Prabhupada wanted. And I started screaming, not screaming, I was talking a lot. I don't usually talk about in those kinds of meetings for a very, very, very long time. But yeah, I talked about it a lot. And I wrote in my offering to Prabhupada that year, before that meeting, in relationship to the ILS survey, why it's so important. And so anyway, long story short, the 3 points that they came out with, the first one was to read Prabhupada's books. Second one was substance over form, which meant we should not just be concentrating on externals, but we should be concentrating on the internal development of our spiritual bodies, spiritual minds. So when Prabhupada came that time in 76, that was the year that he started to realize that his devotees weren't reading his books. We were distributing a lot of books at that time, a lot. It had exploded from 1972, 73, 74, 75. Those were the years that it just exploded. And therefore, because most people get a book, in case you didn't notice, when they come, and then they come and hear and chant and dance and feast with the devotees and find out about what human life is and how happy we can become together if we just give up the bodily concept and forget if we're, men and women and, black and white and, Christian and Hindu and Jews and this and that, whatever we are materially, bodily, and just hear together the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the person who has given us everything. So that's why I've taken this up, and I've been reading the books every single day since 2014 with devotees, whoever is willing and able to come and hear when I read out loud. Rishabdev, when I got really sick a few years ago, Rishabdev was the only one who came because it was awkward. I couldn't. Anyway, he came, and I kept reading up every single day, and he got something from it. It was very deep. On Cholila, that's what I'm recording now for the audiobooks. So that's what we're doing. We're reading the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and we're on, believe it or not, it started up. Just, I don't know, it didn't look like it was going to start, but it did. 5th chapter, 18th verse. And before we do, we're going to read a prayer out loud. Yeah. Did that make any sense, what I just said? Did that make any sense to anybody else? Okay. So far, so good. This prayer was written by one of the senior disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the last incarnation of Krishna on the earth 500 years ago. And he actually started this Krishna consciousness movement. Well, Krishna started it 5,000 years ago when he appeared. But Lord Chaitanya came to deliver what we call the Yuga Dharma, or the process which is recommended for this time and this place for awakening our spiritual consciousness by chanting the holy names of Krishna, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You got it. It's sharp. Okay. Sanatana Goswami wrote a prayer glorifying the book that we're reading. It's called the Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram, the glories of Srimad-Bhagavatam. It goes like this. Sarvasya Shabdipi Yusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kali Dvandoditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madekta Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nisanaga Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu tadayin atinicho chatakada hanamun chagadachin mam premna ritkantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we're reading from the 11th canto. Fifth chapter, text number, beginning with text 18. We're hearing instructions on what happens.
Text 15.
15? Thank you. We've heard from 9 Paramahansa saints, answers to questions by a great saintly king, Maharaj Nimi. And he's described different things, the material nature, the material world, how it works, what it takes to be a devotee, how to perfect devotional service, what are the incarnations of God, how they appear, when they appear, what they do to help us. And now we're, the teachings are concluding with the teachings of 2 of the 9 Yogendras. And this one, his name is Chamasa. And he's explaining what happens when we don't take to spiritual life. It's a little heavy, but we call it tough love. Text 15. The conditioned souls become completely bound in affection to their own corpse-like material bodies and their relatives and paraphernalia. In such a proud and foolish condition, the conditioned souls envy other living entities as well as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who resides in the heart of all beings. Thus, enviously offending others, the conditioned souls gradually fall down into hell. Purport. Materialistic persons express their envy of animals by cruelly killing them. Similarly, the conditioned souls become envious even of other human beings and of the Lord Himself, who dwells within everyone's body. They express their envy of God by preaching atheistic science or pseudo-philosophy, in which they ridicule the fact that everyone is an eternal servant of God. Envious persons express their bitter feelings toward other human beings by creating wars, terrorism, cruel governments, and cheating business enterprises. That sounds familiar. The sinful bodies of such envious persons are just like corpses. Still, envious persons are enamored with the corpse of their material body and become further fascinated by their children and other bodily extensions. Such feelings are based in false pride. Srila Madhvacharya has quoted the following verse from Harivangsha. Aptat vad atmashabdoktam swasmin apipareshu cha jivad anyam na pashanti shutvaivam vidvishanti cha itangs tvam asuran vidi lakshanai purushadaman. The Supreme is called Atma because he is found both in oneself and within others. Some persons become agitated by hearing descriptions of the Supreme Lord, and they openly state that there is no superior living being beyond themselves. Such persons are to be known as demons. By their practical symptoms, they are to be understood as the lowest class of men. Text 16. Those who have not achieved knowledge of the Absolute Truth, yet who are still beyond the darkness of complete ignorance, generally follow the threefold path of pious material life, namely religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification. Not having time to reflect on any higher purpose, they become the killers of their own soul. Purport. Those who are completely in the darkness of ignorance, and thus bereft even of material pious life, commit innumerable sinful activities and suffer greatly. Due to such intense suffering, such persons sometimes seek the shelter of the devotees of the Lord, and being blessed by such transcendental association, are sometimes elevated to the highest perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. Those who are not completely sinful, experience some mitigation of the miseries of material life, and thus develop a false sense of well-being within the material world. Because those who are materially pious generally obtain worldly prosperity, bodily beauty, and a pleasant family situation, they become falsely proud of their position and are not inclined to associate with or accept instructions from the devotees of the Lord. Unfortunately, all material activities, whether pious or impious, are inevitably contaminated by sinful activity. Those who are proud of their piety and who do not like to hear about Krishna, sooner or later fall down from their artificial position. Every living entity is an eternal servant of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, until we surrender to Krishna, our position is actually always impious. The word asankita, not having even a moment to reflect, is significant in this verse. Materialistic persons cannot spare a single moment for their eternal self-interest. This is a symptom of misfortune. Such persons are considered to be killing their own souls because, by their obstinacy, they are preparing a dark future for themselves from which they will not escape for a very long time. A sick man receiving medical treatment may be encouraged by the preliminary results of the doctor's care, but if the patient becomes falsely proud of the preliminary progress of his treatment and prematurely gives up the doctor's orders, thinking himself already cured, there will undoubtedly be a relapse. The words ye kaivalyam asamprapta in this verse clearly indicate that material piety is a long way from perfect knowledge of the Absolute Truth. If one gives up his spiritual progress before achieving the lotus feet of Krishna, he will undoubtedly fall back down into the most unpleasant material situation, even if he has achieved impersonal realization of the Brahman effulgence. As stated in Srimad-Bhagavatam, Aruya Krich Trena Padam Tatat Padan Chadat. Text 17. The killers of the soul are never peaceful because they consider that human intelligence is ultimately meant for expanding material life. Thus, neglecting their real spiritual duties, they are always in distress. They are filled with great hopes and dreams, but unfortunately, these are always destroyed by the inevitable march of time. Purport. There is a similar verse in Sri Ishopanishad 3. Asurya namate loka andena tamasavritaha tangste pratya bigachanti yeke chatmahano janaha. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. Text 18. Those who have turned away from the Supreme Lord, Vasudeva, being under the spell of the Lord's illusory energy, are eventually forced to give up their so-called homes, children, friends, wives, and lovers, which were all created by the illusory potency of the Supreme Lord, and enter again, against their will, into the darkest regions of the universe. Purport. The living entity turns his back on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and tries instead to enjoy temporary sense gratification. The result is simply anxiety as the conditioned soul struggles to maintain his temporary wife, children, friends, home, nation, etc. Finally, all of these things are taken away, and the bewildered soul, in great frustration, sometimes tries to take shelter of an impersonal concept of God and liberation. Thus, the conditioned soul is always in ignorance, either pursuing illusory sense gratification or trying to avoid sense gratification by merging into the impersonal aspect of the Lord called Brahman. But the actual position of the living entity is to serve the Supreme Person, who is his master. And unless one gives up one's inimical feelings toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no question of peace or happiness. Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataeva Shanta Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Ashanta. Madhya-lila 19:149. The bhuktis are the sense enjoyers, the muktis are the siddhi seekers of liberation, and the siddhis are those who are thinking they've become liberated, but by temporarily trying to merge into the impersonal effulgence of Krishna. Text 19. King Nimi inquired, in what colors and forms does the Supreme Personality of Godhead appear? This is the last question of King Nimi. Now we've heard pretty much everything. We've heard what to do, what not to do, what's perfection, what's illusion. And now we're going to hear about Krishna directly. King Nimi inquired, in what colors and forms does the Supreme Personality of Godhead appear in each of the different ages? And with what names and by what types of regulated principles is the Lord worshipped in human society? Purport. It has been clearly established in the previous verses that human life is spoiled if one does not surrender unto the Supreme Lord and engage in his loving devotional service. Therefore, the king is now requesting the sages to give specific details about the worship of the Lord, because this devotional process has clearly been described as the only practical means of delivering the conditioned soul. Text 20. Sri Kadabhajan replied, in each of the 4 yugas or ages, Krita, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali, Lord Keshava appears with various complexions, names, and forms, and is thus worshipped by various processes. 21. In Satya Yuga, the Lord is white and 4-armed, has matted locks, and wears a garment of tree bark. He carries a black deer skin, a sacred thread, prayer beads and the rod and water pot of a brahmachari. Text 22. People in Satya Yuga are peaceful, non-envious, friendly to every creature, and steady in all situations. They worship the Supreme Personality by austere meditation and by internal and external sense control. Purport. In Satya Yuga, the Supreme Lord incarnates as a four-armed brahmachari, described in the previous verse, and personally introduces the process of meditation. Text 23. In Satya Yuga, the Lord is glorified by the names Hamsa, Suparna, Vaikuntha, Dharma, Yogeshwara, Amala, Ishwara, Purusha, Abhyakta, and Paramatma. Purport. The sage Karabhajan Muni is replying to Videharaj Nimi's questions about varieties of Lord's incarnations. In Satya Yuga, the Lord's white color is white. It's too hot in here. Put this fan on also. I think it's second from the right. Oh, thanks. Second from the left. Hope that helps. Actually, the thermostat is in Maharaj's room. Yeah, you go for it. Rishabh, that's what they call it, Rishabh. You can do it. Have them turn it down to 73 or something like that. 72. Okay. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has explained the Lord's various names in Satya Yuga as follows. Those who are self-realized know this supreme reality of the personality of Godhead as Paramatma. Those souls who are situated in the religious system of Varnashrama glorify him as the Hamsa, who is transcendental to all the Varnas and Ashramas. Persons absorbed in gross matter consider him to be Suparna, the beautifully winged basis of the conceptions of cause and effect, who flies within the subtle sky of the soul, as described in Chandogya Upanishad. Persons accustomed to wandering within this universe of subtle and gross matter, created by the Lord's illusory potency, chant his name Vaikuntha. Persons deprived of the power of transcendental meditation, dharana, who are thus subject to falling from the path of religion, glorify him as Dharma, or religion personified. Those who are forced to submit to the illusory modes of material nature, and whose minds are uncontrolled and disturbed, glorify him as the most perfectly self-controlled, Yogeshwar. Persons tainted by a mixture of the modes of passion and ignorance, him Amala, or the uncontaminated. Persons devoid of potency call him Ishwara, and those who consider themselves to be under his shelter chant glories by the name Uttama, Purusha. Those who know that this material manifestation is only temporary call him. In this way, the Satya Yuga Lord, Vasudeva, appears in various four-armed transcendental forms, and the jiva souls worship him, each by their own particular process of devotional service. Therefore, the Supreme Lord has many different names. 24. In Treta Yuga, the Lord appears with a red complexion. He has four arms, golden hair, and wears a triple belt representing initiation into each of the three Vedas. Embodying the knowledge of worship by sacrificial performance, which is contained in the Rig, Sama, and Yajurvedas, his symbols are the ladle, spoon, and other implements of sacrifice. Purport. The sruk is a particular implement for pouring ghee in sacrifices. It is about an arm's length long and is made of a particular type of wood called vikankata. The sruk has a rod-like handle and a spout, with a shallow groove at its tip that resembles a swan's beak. You see this in sacrifice? You've seen them? Its front part is a carved out spoon the size of a fist. The shuva is another implement used in sacrificial oblations. It is made of kadira wood. It is smaller than the sruk and is used to pour ghee into the sruk. It is sometimes used instead of the sruk to pour ghee directly into the sacrificial fire. These are the Lord's symbols in Treta Yuga, when the Lord incarnates to introduce the Yuga Dharma of yajna, or sacrifice. Text 25. In Treta Yuga, those members of human society who are fixed in religiosity and are sincerely interested in achieving the absolute truth worship Lord Hari, who contains within himself all the demigods. The Lord is worshipped by the rituals of sacrifice taught in the three Vedas. Purport. The residents of the earth in Satya Yuga are described as having all good qualities. In Treta Yuga, human society is described as dharmishta, or thoroughly religious, and brahmavadina, or faithfully seeking the absolute truth through the Vedic injunctions. However, it should be noted that all of the exalted qualities of the people of Satya Yuga are not mentioned in this verse. In other words, in Satya Yuga, people are automatically perfect, whereas in Treta Yuga, people are inclined to become perfect through performing Vedic sacrifices. In Treta Yuga, human society is not automatically Krishna conscious, as it was in Satya Yuga, but people are still highly inclined to become Krishna conscious, and thus they strictly follow the Vedic injunctions. Text 26. In Treta Yuga, the Lord is glorified by the names Vishnu, Yajna, Prishnigarbha, Sarvadeva, Urukramam, Vrishakapi, Jayanta, and Urugaya. Purport. Prishnigarbha refers to Krishna's incarnation as the son of Prishni Devi and Prajapati Sutapa. Vrishakapi indicates that if the living entities simply remember the Lord, he is inclined to shower all benedictions upon them, thus satisfying their desires and removing their miseries. Since the Lord is always victorious, he is called Jayanta. Text 27. In Dvapara Yuga, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears with a dark blue complexion, wearing yellow garments. The Lord's transcendental body is marked in this incarnation with shrivats and other distinctive ornaments, and he manifests his personal weapons. Purport. The Lord's transcendental body in Dvapara Yuga can be compared to the color of a dark blue flower. The Lord exhibits his personal transcendental weapons, such as Sudarshan Chakra, and all of the limbs of his body, especially his hands and feet, are decorated with auspicious symbols, such as the lotus flower and a flag. And on his chest, the Lord manifests the Kaustuba jewel, as well as the auspicious Srivats, a whorl of hair, curling from left to right on the right side of the Lord's chest. Actually, such auspicious marks as Kaustuba and Srivats, as well as the weapons of the Lord, are present in all of the Vishnu Tattva incarnations. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that these universal characteristics of the Lord, mentioned by the sage Karabhajan, are indications of Krishna's avatar. Because Krishna is the source of all incarnations, all of the symptoms of all other incarnations are to be found in his transcendental body. Text 28. My dear King, in Dwapara Yuga, men who desire to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Enjoyer, worship him in the mood of honoring a great king, following the prescriptions of both the Vedas and Tantras. Purport. When Lord Krishna was leaving the city of Hastinapur, Arjuna personally held an umbrella over the Lord, and Uddhava and Satyaki fanned the Lord with decorated fans. Bhagavatam 110, 17 and 18. In this way, Emperor Yudhishthira and his followers worshipped Krishna as the greatest of noble kings and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, at the Rajasuya sacrifice of the great souls of the universe, all the great souls of the universe elected Krishna as the King of all kings, the greatest personality, deserving of first worship. Such reverential worship of the Lord is characteristic of Dwapara Yuga, as described in this verse, Maha Rajopalakshanam. With each successive yuga, namely Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali, the condition of human society deteriorates more and more. As mentioned in this verse, the only favorable qualification of the people who lived during Dwapara Yuga is that they are jigyasava, strongly desirous of knowing the absolute truth. Otherwise, there is no good qualification mentioned. The people of Satya Yuga were described as Shanta, Nirvairaha, Surida, and Samaha, or peaceful, free from envy, the well-wishers of every living entity, and fixed on the spiritual platform, beyond the modes of material nature. Similarly, the people of Treta Yuga were described as Dharmishta and Brahmavadina, or thoroughly religious and expert followers of the Vedic injunctions. In the verse, the people of Dwapara Yuga are said to be simply jigyasava, desiring to know the absolute truth. Otherwise, they are described as martya, or subject to the weakness of mortal beings. If the human society of even Dwapara Yuga was clearly inferior to that of Satya and Treta Yugas, we can hardly imagine the truly disastrous condition of human society in Kali Yuga. Therefore, as will be mentioned in the following verses, human beings who have taken their birth in the present age of Kali should attach themselves rigidly to the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to free themselves from foolishness. Text 29 and 30. Obeisances to you, O Supreme Lord Vasudeva, and to your forms of Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, all obeisances unto you, O Lord Narayana, Rishi, O Creator of the universe, best of personalities, Master of this cosmos, and original form of the universe, O Supersoul of all created entities, all homage unto you. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that although Lord Krishna appeared at the end of Dwapara Yuga, great sages chanted this verse from the beginning of that age in expectation of his appearance. Ordinary living entities, although eternally subordinate to the Lord, become absorbed in attempting to dominate the material creation, yet ultimately remain under the control of the Supreme Lord. The constitutional position of the living entity is engagement in the Lord's service. It is further the constitutional position of the material nature to be engaged by the living entity in satisfying the transcendental desires of the Lord. Thus, these prayers, as mentioned in this verse, are offered to the Supreme Lord in accordance with the Pancharatra and the Vedic mantras, so that one may become fixed in remembering his eternal subordination to the Absolute Truth. The Supreme Living Entity, Krishna, eternally manifests himself as the Chaturvyuha, or quadruple plenary expansion. The purport of this prayer is that one should give up his false ego and pray to this Chaturvyuha by offering them obeisances. Although the Absolute Truth is one without a second, the Absolute Truth displays his unlimited opulences and potencies by expanding himself in innumerable plenary forms, of which the Chaturvyuha is a principal expansion. The original being is Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead. When the Godhead manifests his primeval energies and opulences, he is called Sankarshan. Pradyumna is the basis of the Vishnu expansion, who is the soul of the entire universe. And Aniruddha is the basis of the personal manifestation of Vishnu as the supersoul of every individual entity within the universe. Among the 4 plenary expansions mentioned here, the original expansion is Vasudeva, and the other 3 are considered to be particular manifestations of him. When the living entity forgets that both he himself, as well as the material nature, are meant for the Lord's service, the quality of ignorance becomes prominent, and the conditioned entity desires to become himself the master. Thus, the conditioned soul imagines that he is a very important person within society, or that he is a great philosopher. The Vedic mantras and Pancharatra give mankind instructions about devotional service to the personality of Godhead, which free one from the contamination of considering oneself a prestigious member of society or a great philosopher. One in knowledge should recognize himself as a tiny servant of the Supreme Absolute Truth. In Dwapara Yuga, deity worship of the Lord is prominent. Thus, deity worship is ultimately aimed at the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. Without hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, one cannot perform deity worship. In deity worship, it is required that the worshipper glorify the names, forms, qualities, paraphernalia, entourage, and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. When such glorification is complete, the worshipper becomes eligible to realize transcendental knowledge through hearing about the Lord. That's what we're doing here. Hare Krishna. Text 31. O King, in this way people in Dwapara Yuga glorify the Lord of the universe. In Kali Yuga, also people worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead by following various regulations of the revealed scriptures. Now, kindly hear of this from me. Purport. The words Kalavapi in Kali Yuga also are very important in this verse. It is well known that Kali Yuga is an irreligious age. Thus, it is surprising that in such a completely irreligious age, the Supreme Lord is worshipped. Therefore it is stated, Kalavapi, even in Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, the incarnation of the personality of Godhead does not directly assert himself to be the personality of Godhead, but rather he is detected by expert devotees in accordance with the revealed Vedic scriptures. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj states in Srimad-Bhagavatam 7.9.38, Itam Nritir Yag Vishideva Jasavataraya Lokan Vibhava Yasi Hangsi Jagat Prati Pan Dharma Mahapurusha Pasi Yuganurvitash Chanak Kalau Yad Abhavas Triyogo Tasatwam. In this way, my Lord, you appear in various incarnations as a human being, an animal, a great saintly demigod, a fish, or a tortoise, thus maintaining the entire creation in different plenary systems and killing the demoniac principles. According to the age, O my Lord, you protect the principles of religion. In the age of Kali, however, you do not assert yourself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore you are known as Triyuga, or the Lord who appears in 3 yugas. Thus it is understood that it is difficult for common people in Kali Yuga to recognize the incarnation of the Lord in this age. since in this age the Lord's appearance is slightly concealed. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the word Nana Tantra Vidanina indicates the importance of Kali Yuga, of the Vaishnava scriptures known as the Pancharatras, or the Satpata Pancharatras. It is stated in the Bhagavatam, Stri Shudra Dvija Bandhunam Trayi Na Shruti Gochara. In Kali Yuga, it is impossible for ordinary people to perform highly technical Vedic sacrifices or the unbearable penances of the mystic yoga system. Such standard Vedic processes are practically inaccessible for the spiritually retarded population of Kali Yuga. Therefore, the simple process of glorifying the personality of Godhead by chanting His holy names is essential in this age. Such devotional processes as chanting the holy names of the Lord and worshipping His deity form are elaborately described in the Vaishnava Shastras known as Pancharatras. Such tantric scriptures are referred to in this verse, and it is stated that in Kali Yuga, these devotional processes taught by great acharyas such as Narada Muni are the only practical means for worshipping the Lord. This will be more clearly explained in the following verse. And this is a very, very famous verse. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam Jagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Hi Sumedasaha. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. Purport. The same verse is quoted by Krishnadas Kaviraj in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 3, verse 52. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Prabhupada, has given the following commentary on this verse. This text is from Srimad-Bhagavatam 11.5.32. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this verse in his commentary on the Bhagavatam known as the Krama Sandarbha, wherein he says that Lord Krishna also appears with a golden complexion. That golden Lord Krishna is Lord Chaitanya, who is worshipped by intelligent men in this age. That is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam by Garga Muni, who said that although child Krishna was blackish, he also appears in 3 other colors, red, white, and yellow. He exhibited his white and red complexions in the Satya and Treta ages respectively. He did not exhibit the remaining color, yellow, gold, until he appeared as Lord Chaitanya, who is known as Gora Hari. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that Krishna Varnam means Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Krishna Varnam and Krishna Chaitanya are equivalent. The name Krishna appears with both Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. Krishna. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he always engages in describing Krishna and thus enjoying transcendental bliss by chanting and remembering his name and form. Lord Krishna himself appears as Lord Chaitanya to preach the highest gospel. Varnayati means utters or describes. Lord Chaitanya always chants the holy name of Krishna and describes it also. And because he is Krishna himself, whoever meets him will automatically chant the holy name of Krishna and later describe it to others. He injects one with transcendental Krishna consciousness, which merges the chanter in transcendental bliss. In all respects, therefore, he appears before everyone as Krishna, either by personality or by sound. Simply by seeing Lord Chaitanya, one at once remembers Lord Krishna. One may therefore accept him as Vishnu Tattva. In other words, Lord Chaitanya is Lord Krishna himself. Sangopangastra Parshadam further indicates that Lord Chaitanya is Lord Krishna. His body is always decorated with ornaments of sandalwood and with sandalwood paste. By his super excellent beauty, he subdues all the people of the age. In other descents, the Lord sometimes used weapons to defeat the demoniac, but in this age, the Lord subdues them with his all-attractive figure, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that his beauty is his astra, or weapon, to subdue the demons. Because he is all-attractive, it is to be understood that all the demigods lived with him as his companions. His acts were uncommon and his associates wonderful. When he propagated the Sankirtan movement, he attracted many great scholars and acharyas, especially in Bengal and Orissa. Lord Chaitanya is always accompanied by his best associates like Lord Nityananda, Advaita, Gadadhar, and Srivas. Srila Jiva Goswami cites a verse from the Vedic literature that says that there is no necessity of performing sacrificial demonstrations or ceremonial functions. He comments that instead of engaging in such external, pompous exhibitions, all people, regardless of caste, color, or creed, can assemble together and chant Hare Krishna to worship Lord Chaitanya. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam indicates that prominence should be given to the name Krishna. Lord Chaitanya taught Krishna consciousness and chanted the name of Krishna. Therefore, to worship Lord Chaitanya, everyone should together chant the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. To propagate worship in churches, temples, or mosques is not possible because people have lost interest in that. But anywhere and everywhere, people can chant Hare Krishna. Thus, worshipping Lord Chaitanya, they can perform the highest activity and fulfill the highest religious purpose by satisfying the Supreme Lord. Srila Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, a famous disciple of Lord Chaitanya, said, the principle of transcendental devotional service having been lost, Sri Krishna Chaitanya has appeared in order to deliver again the process of devotion. He is so kind that he is distributing love of Krishna. Everyone should be attracted more and more to his lotus feet, as humming bees are attracted to a lotus flower. The incarnation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also described in the Sri Vishnu Sahasranama, which appears in chapter 189 of the Dana Dharma Parva of the Mahabharata. Srila Jiva Goswami has quoted this reference as follows: Suvarna Varno Hemango Varnangash Chananangadi. In his early pastimes, he appears as a householder with a golden complexion. His limbs are beautiful, and his body smeared with the pulp of sandalwood that seems like molten gold. He has also quoted Sannyasa Krichchama Shanto Nishta Shanti Parayanaha. In his later pastimes, he accepts the sannyas order, and he is equipoised and peaceful. He is the highest abode of peace and devotion, for he silences the impersonalist non-devotees. Hare Krishna. And we will hear more about that tomorrow. So we'll stop our reading tonight, and open up our open mic program. Anything that you heard that stuck in your mind that you want to reflect upon and enlighten us further about, or you want further discussion on or question, please feel free. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I have a question going back to actually the first verse that we read and the purport saying materialistic persons express their envy of animals by cruelly killing them. So how are humans envious of animals?
Because they see them going free and running around, and they think that they're human beings are caught up by so many rules and society perplexities and so many things, and they see the birds flying through the sky, and they see the deer running, and they see it's very nice and it's very attractive, and they're envious, so they shoot them. Not everybody, but everybody gets kind of implicated by it and eats them. We don't have to. There's plenty of foods that human beings are naturally inclined to eat. We don't have to kill animals to eat and to thrive. Yes, sir.
I don't know how to meditate.
Oh.
So I'm learning. I don't know.
Here, well, take the mic. This is open mic thing.
Yeah, I just had a question on how to meditate the right
Well,
way.
in this age, according to what we just heard, meditation is not so easy. The reason is because the ether means the atmosphere is agitated. All the cell phones and computers and Wi-Fi systems, and now they're having 5G, and God knows what's going to happen when they do 10G. Well, I'll be walking around Wi-Fi all the time and whatever. So, for that reason, the mind requires a peaceful mode, a peaceful atmosphere to be able to concentrate, is lost in this age. So the normal method, which is a real method, it's a Vedic process, to sit, in a certain posture and just, fix the mind on one point, and then gradually look inward towards the heart and find the soul and the super soul. And that's real meditation. There's a very nice verse in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 6th chapter. You've got it in your hand. You'll be able to read about it. And here Krishna gives the nutshell practice of meditation. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. So right there, sacred, where are you going to find that place? How are you going to be sacred and, secluded? Very difficult. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities, and fixing the mind on one point. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. So that's the process of meditation given in the source books, not by some yogi from somewhere who's made up some kind of, hot yoga or cold yoga or nude yoga or group yoga or this yoga or that yoga. They're just trying to make a fast buck on people's innocence and people's ignorance, But the real process of meditation is not possible in this age that we're living in. But there is a process, and it's called Harinam Sankirtan, which we just read about in the last purport. And here in this book, it also describes that process as being the process for those who are actually advanced in spiritual life. And it's in the 9th chapter. verse number 14, 15?
Maybe 14.
Yeah. Osanaprita, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Satatam kirtiyanto mam, yatantascha drida vrataha, namasyantascha mam bhaktya, nityayukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So that is the process for this age of Kali Yuga. To chant together, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And to hear the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad-Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita in the assembly of devotees. That's why when I first started, I emphasized the reading of Prabhupada's books, because he wanted us to read these books cover to cover, straight through. Not pick a little here and pick a little there, pick a little here and pick a little there, and think we know everything. The books are organized and arranged that there's a flow of thought, and not just a flow of thought or sound, but power that comes from his heart and his spiritual realization that influences us and empowers us to be able to remember Krishna when we chant, and to learn to chant the holy name without offense, with pure hearts. The goal of meditation is to purify the heart of unwanted thoughts and unwanted things. But the mistake that some people are making in trying to concoct a method of meditation and trying to stop the mind is that the mind cannot stop. The mind is always active. Even when we sleep, we dream. The mind always is going somehow or other. Sometimes it goes into deep sleep, but still it's active. And therefore when you come out from a deep sleep, you think, oh, I slept very nicely, because it was still there, still going on. So it's not possible to meditation, to bottom line, meditation doesn't mean to stop the mind. Meditation is to meditate on the name and the form and the activities of the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he's the one who actually brings us the process in each age, as we were just hearing, that's recommended for those ages. So the process of meditation that's real, it was recommended for another age, when the atmosphere was different. You know, there wasn't so much disturbance. Everything was more natural. You didn't have any of these big cities. You didn't have any of these complicated, electronic gear that's putting out all kinds of vibrations that are causing everyone to be agitated, whether they know it or not. What to speak of all the pictures they pass through the ether that goes through us. The pictures that go through the ether, they go right, through us. We may not be able to pick up on them. Some people can, but most can't. The next step is to implant something inside the brain, and so you don't need a computer or something. What do they call that? Internet of the mind, or Internet of the things. Internet of things. Of all things. Yeah. That's where they're headed. That's their way of artificially trying to get to a place where there's a spiritual atmosphere manipulated by them. But they can't do that. In the meantime, what's happening? The whole planet's falling apart, right there in front of their eyes.
Yeah, I had another question about that. What makes people envious? Like, what is it? Where does it come from?
Ultimately it comes from envy of the Supreme Person, and then it's projected onto the material energy. We were in the spiritual world, and we had no envy, we had love. The opposite of love is envy. The opposite of envy is love. Love means when you care for the person you're serving, you care for the person to the point where It's not for you, it's for them, completely. And we have perverted reflections of that love. A person will put his life on the line for his country, or for his family, or for some company, or some whatever. But that love is actually not love. It looks like love. It's a reflection of love. But it's not real love because the object of our love is temporary. The object of our love is temporary. Therefore, even if you get snuggled down with a family and just the right person and the right kids and the right this and the right that, at some point in time, you've got to leave them, whether you like it or not. You may decide, no, I'm happy here. Then with time marches on, everybody has to leave the body. So the first step in understanding how to meditate is to understand that we, each one of us, is different from our gross and subtle bodies. We're spiritual beings, and we don't change. The bodies change, the mind changes, but we, the soul, don't change. That's what we're looking for. Our real identity in the spiritual world. And it begins from realizing that we're not the body. When we dream at night, we can fly through the sky sometimes. I mean, I can sometimes. Well, I'm getting old, so it's hard to fly through the sky. But everybody has this experience. You can do things in dreams that you can't do in the gross plane, because the subtle energy is more free, right? And then we get all elated, or we get all agitated, or we get all distressed while in a dream, and then we wake up, we're in the bed, and either you're relieved, or you're disappointed, or you, whatever it is, and then you try to do it here on this plane. And you can fly through the sky in an elevator, in a helicopter, until it smashes into a mountain and you leave. No matter how big a guy you are. Right? No matter how big a guy you are, no matter how successful you are, no matter how many perfect you are. You get into a helicopter, drive it into a mountain, and that's it, finished. And you leave all the persons doing what? Crying. Oh, but he was so great. That's not love. That's illusion. We may appreciate each other. That love is a reflection of the real love in the spiritual world, where we have a spiritual body that doesn't get old, that doesn't die, that doesn't get diseased. And in the material world, we forget. We're forgetful. So what real meditation is to remember that. To remember who we are, to remember what the spiritual world is, and to learn how to think of those things when we leave our bodies. That's the test. No matter what you've done, the test of whether it's been successful or not is when you leave your body, you go to the spiritual world. You don't have to come back to this material world and struggle with this material body and try to enjoy in this material world, which is not possible. But the good news is that if you take up Krishna consciousness, if you take up real spiritual life, which is based on the deep, comprehensive, profound principles that we've been reading about tonight, if you learn these books and learn how to live accordingly, learn how to see all others as spiritual. So we don't hate or friend or enemy and all those things, because we see that everyone's actually the same. Everyone's actually a soul. We go to every community, you go to every country, they're doing the same things. They have a language, maybe different cultural, they dance like this, or somebody else dances like this, or whatever they do. They got this kind of hat or that kind of hat. It's all just superficial differences, but they're doing the same things, So once you get that through your brain, that we're not different. We're all part of the same family, because there's only one source. There's only one Father. You know, even religionists now, they're teaching their flock or their congregation to hate another group, another religion, because they're like this, or it's different, or whatever. And therefore the whole human society is fragmenting right in front of everybody's eyes, and they don't know what to do about it, because they don't have spiritual knowledge. They don't have spiritual education. But if you read these books seriously, come here and chant, and take Krishna Prasadam, eat spiritual food, so that cells of your body become rejuvenated with spiritual energy, and your mind is rejuvenated by spiritual thoughts. And you transcend the dualities of material existence and become happy within yourself by using everything in the service of Krishna. And there's a way to do that. That's the science of love of God. That's meditation. Real meditation can be done all day long while you're doing your duties in this world. That's real meditation. You don't have to sit down, stop your body, stop your mind, which is not possible anyway, but even if you tried and can for a few minutes, it starts up again pretty quick. But if you can meditate while you're walking around and doing what you need to do to keep your body together and doing your social obligations and everything, and you can do that very easily just by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Try it. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's it. It's so simple. And it has to be. It has to be. Because this age is so difficult, complicated. It's so degraded. We needed something very simple, and therefore Lord Chaitanya came and he gave it to us. Hare Krishna. You got -4 minutes. Sorry.
Hare Krishna. I heard something that the influence that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has on the Kali Yuga is, I heard it described as Satya Yuga within Kali Yuga. I'm wondering if that's bona fide.
No, it's not Satya Yuga within Kali Yuga. Where did you hear it?
I forget.
I thought so. Each yuga has a yuga avatar, and that yuga avatar brings the method for performing devotional life or spiritual life. And in the Kali Yuga, there's the age begins just when Krishna leaves. And then when Krishna leaves, the Srimad-Bhagavatam is spoken, a literary incarnation of Krishna, which the shelter goes to, teaches the Hare Krishna mantra. Right? So then Lord Chaitanya comes 500 years ago, and he starts a kind of like a golden age within the Kali Yuga. It's not like Satya Yuga. Look out the window, and you won't see Satya Yuga. You won't see every tree, bearing fruit that you just eat one and that's it. You don't have to eat the rest of the day. And, you can walk around free. You don't have to worry about somebody coming and shooting you with an AK-47 or all the crazy things that are going on today. You don't have to go through some excruciating, painful, visa process to go from one place to another and all these things, which mean Kali Yuga, But still, within that age, when Lord Chaitanya comes, he chants the Hare Krishna mantra, and it starts the movement of a tsunami of bliss. And it's spreading, that tsunami of bliss is spreading now all over the world, and it will continue to spread until it reaches to every town and village. And it's not that everyone's going to become Krishna conscious. That's sentiment. Prabhupada never said that. I have evidence. If you want to get into it, I'll show you where to look, where to hear, where he tells you. He said, don't expect very many people to take this. This is only for a few. But he said, even if a few take it, the world will change. So that happens for 10,000 years. It increases for 5,000 years until it's most influential, and then the world is a better place, much better than it is now. But what's that's going to be exactly like, we don't know. Details aren't given. Therefore, we shouldn't speculate about it. We should just know that if we chant Hare Krishna very sincerely and get as many people as possible to chant Hare Krishna with us and get them to hear the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita and accept the real philosophy of life, then it will increase. And then gradually it decreases for another 10,000 years, and then Kali Yuga again takes hold. Actually, this whole thing happens in the Sandhya between Dwapara Yuga and Kali Yuga. The 10,000 years after Lord Chaitanya is in the Sandhya. There's 20,000 years Sandhya between each age. So about half of the Sandhya is blessed by Lord Chaitanya to be able to bring people back to spiritual consciousness. But you don't want to be around when that 10,000 years is over, believe me. Because then hardly anybody will know even about anything, and it'll just keep going more and more into animalistic life. And at the end of the Kali Yuga, the human beings will be running around short, 20 years as an old man, and they'll be running around like rats, hairs all over their body, having sex, eating their children. That'll be human life at the end of Kali Yuga.
Thank you.
And Kalki comes, and with a double-edged sword, he's riding a white horse, and he just, okay, enough's enough. And by that killing, they go back to Godhead. Because he's ultimately unlimitedly merciful. Okay, I gotta stop now because I did it again. I've got to record tomorrow morning, and I got to get up early to do that. So, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for coming, and thank you for seeing you again. And Hare Krishna. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Karabhajan Muni ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Yuga Dharma is Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. See you tomorrow night, same time, same place. We do this 7 days a week, just in case you miss it. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow.